All right, welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving straight into something I can only describe as utterly terrifying. It's called the Blood Pact. And trust me, this investigation is going to be equal parts heartbreaking and completely chilling. So grab a seat, get comfortable, or maybe leave the lights on for this one, and let's unravel this mystery together step by step.
Picture this. It's 2 a.m. The house is completely dead silent, except for the solitary ticking of a clock. In a pitch-dark room, a young woman named Niharika is lying in bed. Her eyes are so incredibly heavy with just profound exhaustion, but she can't blink. She's just crying silently in the dark. And we have this harrowing quote from the source material. "I am very thirsty. I need water. Give me water." She's desperately gasping this to her cousin, Anu, who's asleep across the room. Anu startles awake, rushes over, and tries to carefully pour a glass of water into Niharika's mouth. But Niharika is literally so frail, she can't even swallow. The water just spills right down her chin, all over her clothes. She pulls away crying, asking Anu out loud what terrible sin she must have committed to end up in this miserable, helpless state.
This really paints a picture of just how horrifying Niharika's physical deterioration actually is. Her body has basically turned into a wooden skeleton. The source text vividly describes her skin as being completely devoid of blood. I mean, paper white. It's as if someone systematically siphoned every single drop right out of her veins. Her lips are totally dry and cracked, and those unblinking eyes are just constantly welling with tears. She's practically a living corpse at this point, trapped in this agonizing state of extreme weakness where holding a simple glass of water is impossible. It's a visceral, terrifying image of someone wasting away from an illness that makes absolutely no sense.
So obviously this builds into an undeniable, unexplained horror. And our family isn't just sitting around doing nothing, right? They're desperately trying to save her. But every single medical treatment is totally useless. The doctors are absolutely baffled by her decaying state. Her uncle, Mahesh, even brings in top specialists. But crazy enough, the more they take her to the hospital, the worse her condition actually gets. It defies all medical logic. So they decide to hire a professional nurse to care for her at home. But get this, on her very first evening, while trying to feed Niharika, the nurse just suddenly collapses unconscious. When Anu finally revives her, the nurse is absolutely terrified. She claims she felt this bizarre dark shadow roaming around her in the room, causing her head to spin right before she violently blacked out. She literally calls her husband right then and there and flees the house. The big takeaway here is that we are definitely no longer just dealing with a medical mystery. There's a tangible dark presence in that house.
Because the nurse ran off, Anu decides she's going to sleep in Niharika's room the next night, just to keep a close eye on her. Let's fast forward to 1:30 a.m. Anu is jolted awake by this deeply unsettling, demonic chuckle just echoing in the pitch black. She sits up, totally terrified, scanning the empty room, thinking, maybe it's just her mind playing tricks on her. She tries to close her eyes again, but then this chilling, gravelly voice whispers straight into the darkness. "Who shall I kill tonight? Whose blood offering shall I accept?" Just imagine the sheer, freezing terror of hearing those exact words when you think you're alone in a room with your bedridden cousin.
The source material leans heavily into the sensory details right here, and it builds absolute panic. Anu opens her eyes, breathing super heavily. She thinks she sees this massive shadow dart across the room, and then she hears the agonizing creak of the ceiling fan right above her. She slowly looks up, and what she sees is straight out of a nightmare. Perched on the blades of the fan is a terrifying blood-red figure with these long, razor-sharp nails. And before she can even scream or process what she's looking at, this demonic entity violently drops from the ceiling and sinks its teeth directly into her neck. Anu thrashes around in horrific pain, trying to scream, but no sound comes out of her throat as her life force is literally drained right out of her.
The next morning brings a really grim, gruesome discovery. Niharika's aunt, Anita, goes to wake Anu up and just lets out a blood-curdling scream. Anu is dead on her bed. But it's not a normal death. Her body has turned entirely paper white, exactly like Niharika's bizarre illness. She is completely devoid of a single drop of blood. But here is the most baffling part for the family. Those massive bite marks from the demonic attack the night before, they have mysteriously vanished without a single trace. It is the perfect, inexplicable, supernatural murder.
Okay, let's map this all out, because a really chilling pattern is starting to emerge here. We can call it the lunar cycle of death. Month 1, Anu is found completely drained of blood precisely on the night of Amavasya, which, in Hindu cosmology, is the darkest night of the new moon. Month 2, Mahesh, the uncle, goes out of town for an engagement party. But the very next morning, his lifeless body is delivered back to the house in an ambulance. He died in the middle of the night, body completely white, drained of blood, exactly like his daughter Anu. And yup, you guessed it, this also happened precisely on the night of Amavasya. Which brings us to month 3. The final, terrifying confrontation is about to kick off, because that dark moon is rising once again.
Yeah, with only Niharika and her aunt Anita left in the house, things reach an absolute boiling point. Anita is watching Niharika literally rot alive. I mean, maggots are infesting Niharika's decaying back, eating her flesh, and she's too weak to even cry out. Looking at this horrifying decay and remembering the cycle of the new moon, Anita comes to a terrifying realization. She suspects Kali Kriya. If you're not familiar, this is a very dark, supernatural ritual cast specifically to bring severe misfortune, incurable illness, or even death to a target. Anita realizes, with this creeping, cold dread, that her family is the victim of a massively powerful, dark curse.
Okay, get ready, because here comes the massive plot twist of today's explainer. It's the night of the third new moon. Anita is terrified, sitting right next to Niharika, talking out loud about her fears of the Amavasya night. And suddenly, from the bed, the helpless, decaying, maggot-eaten Niharika speaks up. But she doesn't use a weak, dying gasp. No, her voice is crystal clear. It's cold, it's calculating. She looks right at her terrified aunt and delivers this absolute chilling verdict. Today, it is your turn to die.
This moment completely shatters the entire illusion we've been operating under up to this point. Niharika just lays out the dark family secret. See, the illusion was that Anita and Mahesh were these loving caretakers looking after their terminally ill niece, right? But the reality? They were absolute monsters. Niharika reveals that her parents didn't die in some tragic car accident. They were brutally murdered by Anita and Mahesh just to steal their immense wealth. And the only reason they took Niharika in and cared for her at all was a legal loophole. If Niharika died before her 18th birthday, her entire inheritance would automatically go to an orphanage. So this seemingly loving aunt and uncle, they were simply keeping her alive until she turned 18, just so they could claim the massive property all for themselves.
So the really crucial question here is, how on earth did a frail, bedridden girl orchestrate this supernatural slaughter? To understand that, we've got to look at Rakta Bij. In dark folklore, Rakta Bij is a fearsome demonic entity. Now, this is definitely not a spirit you can just light a candle for and ask a quick favor. No way. It is an ancient demon that demands a horrific sacrifice. It requires the consumption of human blood and rotting flesh in exchange for executing your darkest desires. Niharika knew she couldn't physically fight her murderous aunt and uncle, so she turned to the darkest magic imaginable to get her revenge.
And this culminates in the ultimate demonic pact. It's basically a terrifying 3-step process. Step 1, the down payment. Niharika obviously couldn't pay this demon with money. She had to pay with her own body. That mysterious illness, the rotting flesh, the maggots, the drained blood, that wasn't a curse cast on her by our aunt. That was the excruciating price she was willingly paying to Rakta Bij to summon him. Step 2, the hunt. Once bound to her, Rakta Bij systematically hunted and drained her murderous family members. First Anu, then Mahesh, one by one, perfectly timed on the dark night of the new moon. And finally, step 3, the completion. To finish this revenge, Niharika must surrender her ultimate life force.
Which brings us to the terrifying climax of our story. From her deathbed, Niharika tells Anita that Rakta Bij is coming for her right now. And before Anita can even make a run for the door, the demonic entity materializes, pounces on her, and drains her completely dry, just like the others. Her screams of agony echo through the house, and then just fade into dead silence. And on the bed, Niharika's decaying, lifeless face finally forms a smile. With tears streaming down her face, she whispers that she has avenged her parents. She actually manages to pull a photograph of them to her chest, hugs it super tightly, and peacefully surrenders her last breath, completing her dark bargain with the demon.
So this brings us to the ultimate, really provocative question of our explainer today. Would you surrender your soul and seriously endure unimaginable physical agony to a demon in exchange for absolute justice? Niharika's story is such a terrifying exploration of karma, the ultimate price of revenge, and really, just how far a victim might willingly go to right an unforgivable wrong. It totally makes you wonder who the real monster is in this dark tale. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me on this investigation. Keep questioning the shadows, and I'll see you in the next one.